The Resourceman here again for the second time on March 14th, 2023. In this video I'll go through some of the news that has come out in the last week or so, which I haven't really had time to touch on. First one from Snowline Gold, announced today actually. Snowline Gold announces strategic investment by B2 Gold through non-brokered private placement. Flow-through common shares of the company will be issued at $4.86 per share for aggregate gross proceeds to the company of up to $19 million. Obviously, this is a big vote of confidence. This is third-party validation. B2 Gold is run by Clive Johnson, who is very famous in the industry. He's built B2 Gold into a very large company. And basically is a really smart guy. I think he owns a lot of B2 Gold, so he wouldn't be placing these bets. I mean, he's not just a salary taker, if you know what I mean. This is his baby, pretty much. So I don't think he'll be run by internal politics or anything like that, but rather real value creation. Hence why, I mean, B2 Gold has been able to successfully grow a lot through Africa. And it appears that they're actually, I mean, that's the interesting part. I think they did a deal with Seabridge. Maybe even acquired Seabridge, and now they're making this, putting up to $19 million into Snowline Gold, which obviously is located in the Yukon, and that's the theme I also got from when I talked to a bull leading guy at PDAC, that Canada is their basically number one priority outside of Sweden. So again, I think this is just further evidence that if you want success and let's say want to be get value for any success, Canada seems to be the place to be. That's where the juniors or majors are converging, and now even in Africa, they might have some operations in Latin America, I'm not sure. But when even B2 Gold is kind of, going towards Canada, I think, they might be one of the last I would expect to do so, because their focus is very much not in North America. But again, it's like my majority of my portfolio is centered on Canada because it's obvious that the major miners want to be there. It's a tier 1 jurisdiction. Obviously one of the most civilized countries in the world. And I think this personally, I think this opens up the entire region. The Yukon area where Snowline is. We have Fireweed Metals, we have Rakla, we have Tectonic is actually in Alaska. But we have also Banyan Gold, for example, and this is Yukon, but still, basically I would say that, Canadian jurisdictions like BC, we know BC is very hot. We've seen a bunch of majors get involved there. We know that. I think it was Newmont or Barrick's presentation. The last one I saw was they want to find deposits in Canada because the rest of the world is getting kind of sketchy. And obviously, if there would end up being more of a east versus west thing, and problem with supply chain, you would really want the supply to be close to your side of the competition, if you know what I mean. So as he states here, Clive Johnson would like to commend the Snowline exploration and management teams for their strong exploration work conducted Thus far, across their large mineral tenure in the Selwyn Basin, their highly prospective land portfolio boasts district scale, untapped greenfield potential, and we believe their Valley discovery to be one of the more significant discoveries in Canada in recent history. We have a great respect for what Snowline has achieved and look forward to following the progress of their exceptional team moving forward. And funny enough, like I talked about last video, I think retail is totally off the mark. I mean, you probably looked in the Snowline forum, etc. I mean, there's a lot of people bitching, etc. Just because share price come down, it's like, oh, story's over, yada yada yada. Again, simply because yes, we're in the quiet period for Snowline, and we are we had a sector-wide sell-off recently. But I mean, just look at this. Would B2 Gold invest if they thought this was the end of something rather than the beginning, or at least that it's cheap based on, you know, what they have as described, Valley discovery and large mineral tenure in the Selwyn Basin, highly prospective land portfolio? Obviously not. It's like, I mean, I think like I think the first video I did on Snowline was describing this might be, you know, one of the largest growth pipelines of any junior. And they've made, well, 2 discoveries. They only partially flushed out one, which is the Valley. And they have an absolutely enormous land position. So we know insiders have a lot of skin in the game, and now B2 Gold is betting on Snowline. So again, how hard does this sector really need to be? It's not, let's say the price is not reflecting one of the more significant discoveries in Canada in recent history. It simply is not. I think the market cap's around 300 million. Great Bear was sold for what, 1.6 or something. And that's from, you know, Valley alone. So, I mean, I just simply think this is one of those hodl stories. Come back in a few years. My bet is that one would probably be up a lot from here, because what they've hit so far, the Valley is not going anywhere. Yes, things can happen, etc. But now they have almost 20 million more to explore with, and they're going to do more exploration than just Valley. So who knows? In 2-3 years, maybe Valley will have grown quite a bit from what we know, and that's not a guarantee. Maybe they made 1 or 2 or 3 discoveries more, and it's starting at what, 300, well, maybe it's up to 350 million or something now. Still, it's like, yeah, I think there's some room to grow here, but obviously that requires time held. So yeah, just one still. I mean, to me, one of the most obvious hodl stories, I would say, and now it just simply became even better because now we have credible third-party validation. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. It's pretty simple. Well, I mean, you don't need to know much that if B2 Gold is paying this much at this price, we're probably not making a mistake by holding Snowline at you know, a lower price, let's say. So again, keep it simple. It's like, we don't know how Snowline is going to play out, but I think one can be pretty sure based on everything that is known, including this, that we're not making a mistake, even though we don't know if we'll lose money, make a lot of money, or make some money, etc. But that's how it goes. The real success stories should pay for a lot of, let's say, losers, and in order to do so, one must hold it for a long time. I mean, Great Bear, it took 3-4 years to become a 10-20 bagger. So if you held Great Bear for 3 months, it's not going to pay for all the other losers. You need to hold it for quite a few years. Article about Line 1. Line 1 sets the bar for those that follow, says President. Fiji's head of state yesterday said he was impressed with the management of Fiji's next gold mine. Yeah, you can read. I have it up on the site. And that's the interesting part. Like, they've invested 145 million in this project. I think the market cap right now is what, 170 something. So according to Mr. Market right now, they didn't really create any value. Which is like bullshit. They should soon be, you know, before year end, probably are going to be in production. High grade, massive exploration potential left. But basically it's like Mr. Market is suggesting that they only got their money back pretty much. And no additional value was created for every dollar spent. I don't buy that at all. But that's the market. Again, that is the market right now. I don't understand how one could say that this sector is hard, because it's like it's not just, you know, Snowline Gold, for example, or Line 1. It's like there are a bunch of high quality juniors that are undervalued. That's all one can ask for. And everything, which is funny with this sector, everything comes at the same time. Because when we go into a sentiment low, everything becomes a buy. Or at least, I mean, partial buys or degrees of buys. When we go into a sentiment high, almost everything is a sell. Now it's a buffet. You can almost not make a wrong step. And I don't mean, again, you can make a good buy based on the information you have at a time. That doesn't mean it's going to end up looking like a good buy. Those are totally different things. If you make a lot of money on a stock you bought, that doesn't mean it was a good buy. We just see what happens. We don't see all the risks and all the infinite amounts of scenarios that didn't end up happening. We can't predict the future. We can just, basically try to set up the best risk reward we possibly can, meaning typically pay as little as we can for as much as we can, and the best, potential and probable potential and all of that. Right now, it's super hard to be making a mistake as a buyer if it's an above quality, average quality junior. Yet, as you see, most people are barely hanging on with their fingertips. Most people don't consider price and value as two different things. Most people cannot see it. Most people are ready to give up and sell. Give away the most amount of value at the cheapest price possible. That's what they basically are trying to stop themselves from doing. Whereas if you're a value investor, this is such a no-brainer sector right now. I don't know how it's gonna, keeping cheap. I just know that the prices we're seeing out there for future supply do not at all reflect the value of the future supply. So there's two ways really one could lose with a somewhat diversified portfolio. It's like, well, basically, sentiment never changes, which has never happened, or everything goes to shit, basically, that there will be no new mines in the future. The probability of that is so low. It probably with a pretty good diversified portfolio, high quality juniors, I would say it's statistically incredibly improbable if you lost money, even if you bought and did nothing over the next 2-3 years. I think it's that simple right now. It's that easy. It's like Pierre Lassonde said. The gold sector is the easiest sector because it goes up and it goes down and it goes up. It becomes cheap, and for any value investor, they would see that, would have no problem buying. If it got cheaper, buying more. If it got cheaper, buying more. If it stayed cheap for a year, buy more. Because that never stays. It never stays in that state. That's just how it is. And some, obviously, most of the companies I own, I would think if in a 3-year horizon, given how much potential value they could create and where they are starting off in terms of valuation, it's like 3 to 5 bagger potential. across the board pretty much. Maybe even more. I mean, some are more high risk, obviously, with like 10 bagger potential. But it's like, no, this is, I don't own a single stock, I don't think, where I don't see it's like, yeah, this one could multi-bag over the next couple of years. And, you know, and on average, I would expect them to actually multi-bag. Not that everyone will, but it's like, we can't expect that every single buy we make is A good buy, and B, that it actually looks like a good buy a few years from now. Again, that's not how it works. I have more losers than winners. Typically, I have more in the winners than I have in the losers, and or the winners go up more than you lose in the losers, which is 100%. So as soon as you go over, a double and beyond, that's already paid for a stock that's gone to zero. Many stocks don't really end up going to zero, but it's like, yeah, I have some minus 80% juniors, some minus maybe 90%, etc. I think I've had some companies that actually went bankrupt as well. I mean, that's not the point. It's not, case by case doesn't matter. That's why it's like when you look at people who brag about individual cases, like look at my stock or look at this stock, you have no idea how their portfolio is doing. If you see someone bragging a lot about one case, it's like, yeah, okay, if he brags that much about one case, then one should probably stop and think, like, why isn't he bragging about his portfolio? Because that's obviously way more impressive. I can throw darts at 40 juniors and highlight a few that ended up going well. Again, regardless if they were good or bad buys. Just how this sector works. I mean, you're probably gonna you're probably gonna end up hitting something. That doesn't mean you have a good strategy or that portfolio is good. Our decisions ought to be based for maximum long-term portfolio returns, not on a case-by-case study for bragging rights. And that's obviously why people are typically scared shitless of looking dumb in any particular stock, because you know how much shit I get for some companies if they go down. People don't want to, suffer that. Whereas, hey, I'll happily trade a bunch of, losers now and then for what I think is a superior long-term portfolio strategy. Meaning, how much do you want to look right on average? Basically, just buying this quote sure thing, which never is a sure thing. Or how much do you want to set up for maximum portfolio returns? And that could come with, 70% of your juniors not turning out the way you hoped. But if that makes sense from a long-term portfolio strategy, you should do that if you're rational. I mean, that's just how it is. It's like in poker, you could play crappy hands if you had the odds in your favor. But some might not even want to play it because they're gonna look stupid if they get turned off, and somebody might say, "Why would you play that hand? That's such a shitty hand." But it's like, if the pot odds are with me, I'm gonna be playing that because I don't care about how it looks. I want to make the most amount of money over the long term. Anyway, Goliath confirmed strong gold and silver recoveries from shorebed in low mass gravity plus flotation concentrate, including 48.8% free gold from gravity. You can read the details yourselves. Again, I typically just like to focus on the comments when it's stuff that is kind of above my pay grade. Recent metallurgical test results indicate shorebed displays a number of optimal characteristics, commented Quinton Henney, Technical and Geological Director of Crescent Capital, a strategic shareholder of Goliath Resources. Even at a coarse grind size of 327 micrometers or 327 millimeters. Minerals that are sought are readily liberated and recovered by gravity and flotation techniques. Overall recoveries of 92.2% gold, 86.5% silver, and very high for. I mean, that's quite remarkable. I mean, typically you see well, the metallurgical test results I typically see is like, yeah, you might have a high 90+% in one, and then just tapers off quite steeply down to 60, 50, 40% for the rest. Yes, and 48.8% of the gold just from gravity, which is like super cheap, no regions. So interesting. I mean, as a novice myself, I mean, I can at least appreciate some things here, like coarse grind size, okay? Meaning you don't have to grind the ore too many times over, to a finer and finer and finer. That's costs. That's costs, okay? Could be relatively cheap on that, just the grind size department, and overall looks like really good recoveries. What I assume is a quite small concentrate, and again 40.8% just of the gold just from gravity. And as it states, this bodes well for future development of shorebed. Gravity and flotation techniques are generally less capital intensive to develop and lower cost to operate than other types of precious metal processing. Seldom does one see such simplistic, favorable metallurgy in a gold-silver project. So basically, you might be lucky if you have one of these things, like coarse grind size. That's okay. It might be cheaper than the average project, but if you have 40% recoveries from gravity on the gold portion, which I think is probably around 50% at least, and you have this high recoveries in all four of the main metals, which means, I mean, that's literally how much money you get from the metals that are actually there. So this looks, and obviously that's what let's say us retail don't really care about. And that's obviously what any mining company would care about, because an ounce in the ground is only as profitable as the margin you get out of taking it up from the ground and actually processing it. So this is highly material, even though it's like typically nobody cares in the retail space, but any potential acquirer is definitely considering this. I mean, let's say exactly the same project, but with out gravity recovery to this order and not a coarse grind size. I mean, who knows? Maybe this project would be like 3 times as valuable actually, because the margins would be 3 times as high. So that's nothing to sleep on. Eskay Mining, as always, a very meaty news release. I can't go through all of this, obviously, but I actually thought that the last news release might be the last one before the coming field season. But they've obviously been doing a lot of technical work in the background. So they have basically is pleased to announce the addition of Mr. Riaz Mirza as geophysical advisor to its exploration team. Mr. Mirza brings a wealth of experience in the application of geophysics for precious and base metal exploration in the Golden Triangle, where he has been actively engaged in numerous projects over the past decade. Eskay Mining welcomes Mr. Mirza as the newest member of its world class of explorers in search of SK version 2.0. And Ms. Mac states, Riaz and his team has been reviewing our geophysical data from our 100% controlled 602 square kilometer consolidated SK project area, with the goal of drawing direct comparisons to that of the original SK Creek precious metal rich VMS deposit, because VMS deposit typically occur in clusters. Drawing direct comparisons of our data to that of our neighbor provides a huge step forward in our quest for discovering SK Creek version 2.0. I mean, makes perfect sense. Since they found same aged, let's say, host rocks, where they're finding sulfides over Scarlet region, etc., etc. I mean, that basically what formed Eskay Creek, the fluids, etc., the vents, the black smokers, they were spewing up stuff in other places as well, obviously, because there's the Blake samples are lighting up multi 10-kilometer trends. So this whole area is quite active. So it would make sense that, I mean, if you have a seafloor X kilometers away, and then you have vents X kilometers, yeah, from that place basically, spewing up the kind of same source material, let's say. I mean, why wouldn't they give similar readings, if you know what I mean? If basically the package of rocks is the same thing. And again, without being a expert at all on geophysics, etc., I think this could be. I mean, obviously, what's one of the problems for Eskay Mining or any Northern explorer? Well, assay labs are slow. I mean, in the good old days, I don't know, not too many years back, I mean, you would get assay results during the actual field season. So you got some feedback, like, okay, what we're hitting now, are we getting closer, or is it getting hotter or colder? I don't think Eskay and a bunch of Northern juniors, they didn't get a single assay result before the whole season was over. So then the question is like, okay, do you go for it, or do you try to, let's say, play it safe and wait another season, basically? Yeah, it's like, it's hard to know. Obviously, it's hard to say for sure, because, okay, again, if they made a bullseye or whatever, everybody would be cheering. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, okay, now it looks like, quote, money down the drain, pretty much, which of course isn't the case, and you never know what might be there. So it's like, I fully support, since the field seasons are short, I mean, if you would shorten them even more, but just drilling a few, I mean, who knows how many years it would take to discover something. And as we know it, like Eskay Creek, hole I think 109 or something, yeah, it took 108 holes in one area, and when they hit on the 109th, I mean, everything changed. It was just one hit, 108 kind of misses, one hit, and there you go. The rest is history. This was a $45 billion ore body. And here you can see Simcoe's geophysical analysis of the Eskay Creek deposit. You can read this yourselves. Zones of VMS mineralization at Eskay Creek are clearly defined when applying a magnetic tilt derivative to magnetic data top images. This data shows a distinct bullseye pattern associated with the deposit, interpreted to the result from hydrothermal alteration of host rocks and overprinting, yada yada yada. Okay, you can obviously see that there's a high that goes all the way up to, I would guess, almost surface, and here it also seems that it's starting to hit stuff again. But it appears that most mineralization are concentrated where you have these in the vicinity of these anomalies, let's say. So okay, they use that because if that, I don't know, let's say if this is pointing to a feeder zone, whatever, then one would expect that the feeder zone leads to something, and then you might have your massive sulfide horizon, for example. And there's a few more targets actually popped up. I mean, this is really the stuff I like. I mean, this is big picture, blue sky potential stuff. Obviously, I mean, their land position is huge. That's what's very intriguing with Eskay Mining. It's like they pretty much own 85% of the Eskay Creek VMS district, and I pretty much think, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, they have the same rocks way down to the south. They have the similar age rocks to Eskay Creek over here, Scarlet Tarn Trend. I assume these might be similar aged as well, and obviously they have like 6 different VMS episodes, so it's not like it's only one point in eons ago where these black smokers were active on the seafloor, but rather like 6 different events. Hence why you have these stacked VMS systems at Jeffen TV. So this is the Recent and legacy soil sample estimates covering the western end of the Maroon Cliffs. So this is quite interesting because we haven't really heard about this before, as far as I know. And here you have soil anomalies. Okay, you have some, I guess that's because of the anticlines, etc. And then you have this. Okay, same settings, let's say. Here you obviously, here you see it makes total sense. When they configured it, etc. Yes, with this setting, you see this, let's say, geophysical ridge that goes up into, well, where the Eskay Creek deposit is. And there's nothing really in between, but here, okay, here you have a similar thing happening. And you have, it's anomalous for silver, and that's mercury, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Then there's like at least 2 layers that make sense. You have, pathfinder elements, and obviously, soil sample. These are not expected to be too high, but you have 0.5, 1, maybe a few, 1, maybe a 2, etc. here and there in soils. And you have that line up with a similar, let's say, geophysical anomaly structure seen at Eskay Creek. So here you have metal smoke, and here you have it coinciding with geophysical smoke. So does this look like a real target? Yeah, of course it does. It's not too far away from Eskay Creek even. I don't know how many kilometers. But again, these were part of the same seafloor once upon a time, pretty much. Very interesting. Obviously, I think that's going to be one of the high priority targets after this. And that's the thing. It's like, again, one single discovery hole could change everything. The trick is to locate these VMS deposits. It's like Skina. You see, they find new stuff all the time, and that's even around Eskay Creek. Like, decades after it actually was mined, they're finding more and more stuff. So it's not like it's not there. It's the trick is to locate them, because these are, again, they have a huge land position. Eskay Creek isn't it's not like it's a super large. This is assumed in picture. So that's the trick. You need to, quote, get lucky once. And here you have the Maroon Cliffs magnetic anomaly, and here you obviously have very high Bleg readings. So obviously of interest. Here as well. This is kind of interesting. It's like, okay, we know they've hit the Sib Lulu. We know there's mineralization there, and then you have Jeff North. This is basically where they carpet bombed. That would be where did they? Okay, you don't see. Do you see actual drill holes? Yeah, maybe these are the drill holes. So that's basically shooting blind. Again, it's like, obviously, if they had this geophysical data already in hand, they might not have drilled here, but rather drilled here. But with that said, they obviously hit stuff here as well. So the question is, where are they going to find, here, or when they can actually drill Siblulu, etc. Because it's not that they haven't wanted to drill it. I think it's a thing of in terms of access with the road they're building together with Skina, or was it Seabridge? Maybe it was Seabridge, and that's the one in that case that I think B2 Gold took over, and B2 Gold is getting even more involved in Canada. Anyway, it's like, yeah, do I think that I'm actually a bit surprised that no major has taken a strategic position in Eskay Creek, given gold and silver is rare, prime hunting ground for, let's say, multi-billion-dollar deposits in British Columbia and next to Skina. Yeah, I mean that's rarer still. So I would not be surprised to see strategic investment one of these days, because it's so obvious that there's so much potential to flush out. And again, you only need to hit you only need one of these targets. I mean, these are basically clusters of targets. You only need one, which would be even half as good as Eskay Creek. I mean, basically one as good as the Eskay Creek remnants, which Skina is developing right now. And you'd have a you'd have a mine, you'd have a company maker. Yeah, Hexagon Mercury. Here you have TV. I mean, this kind of lines up though. It's like, yeah, TV has provided the best hits, and wouldn't you know, it has the, let's say, geophysical anomaly that I would think is closest to the surface. And here you have a few drill holes, and they basically didn't hit all the way down. So yeah, I mean, again, in hindsight, it's easier to say. It's like, yeah, you should probably drill here or there, whatever. But it's like, okay, here it comes up basically the surface. Yeah, we know Jeff has provided good hits. Here as well, yeah, TV provided good hits. Here it comes. I don't know if this has been drilled at all. Certainly not with these kinds of geophysics, etc. And again, it's like, yeah, kind of on trend from Eskay Creek, similar looking geophysics readings, and you have the smoke. So like I've said since day one, I mean, I think it's a matter of when, not if. Assuming, again, it's like, obviously you have to do work, but I think Eskay Mining, there's no way in hell that there aren't one or more. I would expect multiple deposits within the Eskay Mining land package. It's just, again, a question of finding it, and it doesn't help if you're drilling semi-blind with no feedback from assays during during the season. And here you obviously have this geophysical anomaly as well, and yes, this is also where you hit good stuff at TV. I mean, you remember some of the highlighted holes. And here it also gets interesting. Okay, this is Scarlet Ridge, Scarlet Valley, Tarn Lake. I think these are the holes that have been drilled, like here. I don't remember which of these holes hit the best, but let's see. Yeah, the trend of magnetic susceptibility anomalies immediately west of Tarn Lake lie up stratigraphic section and may lie near the inferred contact mudstone horizon. Testing for extension of the Tarn Lake Scarlet Knob system will be a major focus of drilling in 2023. Yeah, I guess this is what they're talking about. So maybe they're hitting lower stratigraphic stuff here, and the actual, potential VMS horizon, I think it would be, and the contact mudstone, which obviously hosts the mineralization at Eskay Creek. So that might be farther to the west. So basically, if we assume this is kind of, I might be wrong here, but it's like kind of tilted, that you have older rocks here, and then it goes younger, or because I think Eskay Creek, that Eskay Creek deposit, I mean, not everything here, because they're hitting at the lower mudstone, etc. But the Eskay Creek, the Eskay Creek horizon was in the, I think, youngest rocks. So if we assumed it's like feeders and all of that, all the way up to the actual, Eskay Creek horizon, which in that case would be, possibly quite a bit farther to the west. But they've already hit smoke, and they're finding smoke, etc. So again, we know there's something here. The chip samples, etc., they found the surface and hitting the drill holes. That just doesn't fall out of the sky. That's way more than, you know, anomalous or background value. So there's something kicking around here. And it might be that this is where the Eskay Creek horizon is hiding with, May line near the inferred contact mudstone. Let's see if they had any comments on Maroon Cliffs. So something Blake did in area presence below support any. Let's see here. Yeah, this combined with the promising soil results reported above make this a highly prospective target. Okay, so obviously here, I mean, this what I would guess, especially if they, you know, confirm it with some more soil sampling, etc. This might be area, target area. This might be target area. This obviously continue more at Siblulu. TVGF maybe in this direction. I don't know if these holes hit. Maybe here. I mean, maybe. Well, here's some. And it's hard because it's not 3D, so it's hard to see where it's like. Yeah, but this is still open anyway. So yeah, and this Scarlet Ridge. But the thing obviously now with Eskay Mining is that yes, the market is expecting a raise. That's all there is. There hasn't been any bad news. Prospectivity hasn't gone down. The quality of the targets with this news release, for example, is going up. So I mean, imagine. I think it could be quite a interesting drill season if they drill here. Drill more here perhaps. Here I would guess. And try to connect, where is that? Did I pass it? Yeah, I mean this way, on the way to Hexagon Mercury, where they know there's, I think there's anomalous soils, etc. there as well. So yeah, it's like, unfortunately, a lot of the drilling got centered here. That's it. Maybe again. Maybe in hindsight, yeah, of course, this wasn't the best place to drill. But this is 1 kilometer here, and we know Siblulu can produce high grades. So yeah, this is again, exploration is tricky. It's a process, but they have way more target areas left than they have even tested, and the ones they have tested, in hindsight, might be areas where the extensions, etc., might not be located with the help of geophysics. So it sounds weird, but this is still very early stage. And we can't forget that, yes, we already know they've hit the Jeff here and TV here. We have Siblulu left to drill. And obviously now we also have the Maroon Cliffs target. So again, I wouldn't be too surprised to see... I'm actually a bit surprised why Strategic hasn't taken a piece yet. Maybe that will come. And... for better or for worse, I don't think we would even need a blowout budget to test these targets. I mean, let's say, I don't know, 3-4 holes here, perhaps. Maybe a few holes here. Maybe one there. Maybe a few here, maybe some there. Obviously here, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, yeah, it would be super broad spaced, and it's like it's hard to hit even if it's there with too broad space. But it's like, yeah, you could still have, again, it's like one hole is enough. If any of these targets, with just a few holes, would deliver like, obvious discovery hole, that would be all be worth it, and you wouldn't need to then maybe carpet bomb everything. So whereas yes, I think this project absolutely deserves a big budget, but still it's like, hey, as long as they test them, and obviously the cheaper the company is, the more torque we have leverage to a possible discovery. So I'm gonna be excited when they start testing, these geophysical targets at least. And you can see here, I mean, it's, yeah, it fits. Next, can take here. New Hemi style gold targets identified for immediate drilling at Betcher. I'm obviously hoping they make a Hemi type discovery, and soon. I talked to Mike up at PDAC. He seemed very, let's say, encouraged about Hemi. And the funny thing is, like, we discussed this a bit. It's like, you've seen the lithium news from Novo, and lithium in the Australian market. I mean, they're totally crazy about lithium. Well, Novo is located or listed in Canada, and all the Aussies basically got put off apparently by the Nugget video. That must have been 2017. So again, this sector, well, markets overall, is about perception and emotions and all that. And when you also combine that with, like, hey, the Australians are more gung-ho than Canadians on lithium. But Novo is not listed in Australia. And also, I think the Australians have even a worse perception of Novo than maybe the Canadians. And Hemi is obviously must be one of the biggest success stories down in Australia. The Grey is listed on the ASX, but Novo is listed in Canada. And you have the perception from the Nugget video run up and subsequent crash. So it's a very interesting thing with Novo. There's so many different angles and perception and where you're actually listed and all of that. Obviously, I'm hoping that they will hit it big this year, since it's obviously on trend from Hemi, and we know Quinton's talked about these pressure shadows from these intrusions. Here you have Hemi, which is in the pressure shadow of this thing that came up, and here you have pressure shadows from this intrusion. And it appears that I think they discussed that the pathfinder elements they're finding is like suggesting Sanukatoids, which is the same over at Hemi. So personally, of course, I really hope that Novo will make a big discovery. And you can see, I mean, the kilometer scale here, that's the thing with Novo, like their land position is so large. I mean, this is 2.5 kilometers. I really hope they hit it, swing it out the fences or whatever, you make a home run this year. And also, they were able to acquire for a very good price, I would say. They struck a deal at the same time for 100% ownership of both. They bought the rest of the ownership from GBM, which I think kinda needs cash, and Kalamazoo. I don't know how much cash they need, but still, because this was I wasn't gonna say for better or for worse, but it's like it might not be the best earning deal that Novo had. It was kinda expensive, and as we know, it's like when you have multiple targets, they're gonna get discounted like hell, because the market typically can only focus on one thing. And when one of those, let's say, good targets has partial ownership, then the market is going to care even less. So now with 100% ownership, obviously we get a full torque here. If they make some kind of Foster wheel discovery here with 100% ownership, yeah, that would move the market. That would cut through all the noise and legacy perception of Novo, and again with Hemi. So I think what the odds are that they're gonna find another Hemi or a Foster wheel or half a Foster wheel or half a Hemi, I sure don't know. But at least now we have 100% ownership in this as well. And I don't know exactly what the market cap is, but like a Hemi, I think the gray is worth 2 billion. Foster wheel would be worth, well, at the end of the day, it's probably was worth, I don't know, 6 billion, something. Actually might have run up to like 8 billion. Anyway, it's like billions of dollars. I think Novo is sub 100 million right now. So it's like, okay, if there's a shot at making a Hemi discovery, it's like, okay, 2 billion, even half of that, okay, 10% chance priced in. 10% chance of finding one Hemi. Yeah, I think those are quite acceptable odds. And then you add, what the price is to find, half a Foster wheel or a Foster wheel. Okay, half a Foster wheel, I don't know, maybe 2 billion, 2.5 billion or something. Let's put it like this. You're not paying up for discovery success presently. With that said, that doesn't mean, of course, just because it's cheap doesn't mean you're going to make a lot of money on it. It's just that if they end up making a discovery and you started off cheap, you're going to just make more money than you would otherwise. So it's obviously plays into the risk-reward situation. I mean, if Novo was at 500 million and they found something worth 1.5 billion, yeah, it's like 200%. But if they start off at sub 100 and end up finding something worth 1.5 billion, that's obviously 15 times. So totally different risk reward because, yeah, price is different, but the geology isn't. Anyway, Headwater Gold acquires the Lodestar Gold project in the Aurora District, Nevada, and outlines 2023 work. Right now, one of my favorite stories. I'm not too keen on that. Is unfortunately the case for I'm not too keen on going super deep in pre-discovery plays right now when banked success and advanced exploration post-discovery stores are so cheap. But this is actually a post-discovery. I mean, one could say that, well, Novo is kind of a pre-discovery play, at least in terms of these targets. Eskay Mining is kind of, I would say it's a hybrid. I mean, we had some kind of monster hits out of TV and some very high-grade hits out of Jeff. But it hasn't really been tied together yet, let's say. Haven't hit the, bullseye. Haven't hit the Eskay Creek type stuff. But it's like TV is not... the TV zone, for example, I mean, I don't think we've even found all the parts of those stacked systems. So it's like there's a lot left to explore there, but obviously it would be preferable to have that just obvious VMS horizon discovery hole, where it's like, X amount of meters, like, who knows, 30 grams per ton or something. Again, I think that will come with more time. But anyway, this is a cheap one. Yes, it's kind of a high risk, high reward in that sense, like SK and Novo. Unlike Line 1, for example. And I would say unlike Snowline, I mean, that's, you probably know they have multi-million ounces already. But great technical team. I really like the de-risked nature of Headwater. They have like 2 discoveries already. I think one could call. I mean, Spring Peak is obviously a discovery. So they added Lodestar, and this sits to the north of the Aurora vein system, and they are actually active here now, Hecla. This is an earning with Newcrest Mining earning. This is now 100% owned. Okay, they have as you can see, silica sinter target here. So yes, it's not like Spring Peak where you have like multiple yada yada, but it's like, yeah, again, since Newcrest is involved here, Hecla is working here, even if you find, I don't know, 300,000 ounces, 500, if it's high grade, that could be worth a lot of money just from finding one vein zone, let's say, or one vein. If they're gonna make a mine here and you get a few, I don't know, even a couple 100,000 ounces, that's gonna get shipped to, you know, either mined by Newcrest or, you know, Hecla's mine. So it's the critical threshold for success, I would say, is very low. And obviously, if Newcrest earns in and buys this, and they find something here, they're gonna be forced to buy this, or they're probably gonna buy this as well, or actually, you know, acquire the whole company. And obviously, you would that would factor into the acquisition price. Yeah, I mean they're just, I mean these guys are killers basically. Well, now 12 projects for Newcrest earnings. It's like, yeah, if they make, or if one of these projects is a legit discovery, and obviously the threshold for success would be lower next to this, and sure, yeah, they would be keeping 25% plus royalties, but given the market cap is what, 24 million or something, and they have like effectively 10 million in cash, yeah, I mean that would be a multi-bagger anyway, and that's from one, you know. District Metals applies for additional mineral licenses to increase land position to the north and south of the polymetallic Viken mineral license in central Sweden. I don't know if they've actually voted yet, and if the moratorium on uranium mining is lifted. Suffice it to say, the Viken deposit is, I think it's the second largest uranium deposit in the world. So it's a huge one. It's an absolute monster, like 3.5 billion tons. They've staked even more ground. And you've seen this, shares of District Metals have responded quite well. It's like, I absolutely have no idea how to value such a behemoth. I'm not a uranium guy. Thankfully, Garrett Ainsworth is a uranium guy. And it's like, again, you know, with the people. I think I bought more District Metals at like 5.5 cents or something. I actually participated in the recent placement at, I think it was 15 cents or something. Like somebody said, well, Garrett alone is worth more than, you know, 15 million. So yeah, I mean, I bought District Metals when it hit 5 cents because it was just absurdly cheap, like a lot of other stuff. And I didn't plan on this happening, but again, with good people, the surprises tend to be to the upside with good people. And now he managed to make some moves here, etc. And all of a sudden, the share price is up, I don't know, 300% from the low, something like that. Newfound Gold intercepts 49.7 grams per ton over 29.9. I mean, this is, you know, pretty much a fast rule hit, I would say. Sure, as always, like, you know, hits in like Bonanza. I don't know if you call that Bonanza, maybe 30 gram. Anyway, it's like Bonanza. And as the first case I wrote up, about Newfound Gold, and it's kind of the same for most of these. It's like they're gonna find more. They have, I don't know, 70 kilometers of strike or something. I mean, this isn't even the whole land package. It's like, yeah, the more they drill, the more they are gonna find. And I would assume they're near kind of critical mass here. Yeah, that's what I would assume at least. And it's like, okay, now you know, I mean, this is obviously an absolutely disgusting hole. Even with, you know, if it's what's it called, smeared a bit, you know, that there are more high grade spurts, but it's like, yeah, but these are not few. It's like, yeah, this might be, you know, mineable, and when you have like chick, and obviously like 4 meters of 183. That's like printing money. So yeah, I'm actually, I would expect this also to be either taken out or see a strategic get involved. Because again, it's like Canada. This is looking more and more like a Foster Will type scenario, and it's in Canada where the majors want to meet. It seems to be the top priority to be in Canada, and that's also why I would expect that. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, started backing Eskay Mining, given like the obvious district scale potential, and it's in BC next to a 5 million ounce mine. Yeah, so that's about it. Consider me biased. I own shares of all companies mentioned. Some are banner sponsors, so consider me twice biased. And I have no idea how any of these stories will play out. I just think that all companies mentioned here, they are cheap right now. And I think that in a year or two, I think they will either be down or up a lot. And the ones that are up might pay for, who knows, 1, 2, 3 of the other ones. Yeah, that's basically it. And I mean, then it comes down to appetite for risk or whatever. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Lion 1 is obviously the most advanced one. Snowline, I would say, has tangible margin of safety, given that value already looks huge. Goliath, I mean, that could be a really valuable mine if they find a few million ounces with the characteristics here, obviously in Canada. Eskay Mining, who knows? In 12 months, before this year is over, they might have hit the Eskay Creek version 2. And in 2 years, we'll all be up 10 times on our money. I have no idea. Or they might not find anything really. Well, I mean, they could obviously just, drill TV, and it's not... They're gonna find something, but it's like... yeah, this might be very volatile in that sense. It's like, who knows? This might be the next Eskay Creek. I sure don't know. So from that perspective, I would say it's high risk, high reward. But thankfully, again, we know that Eskay Creek's like 45 billion. So if they find one of those, the reward is gonna be absurd. And with Novo, same, like another Hemi, that's $1 billion target. Another Foster Will, or half of a Hemi of Foster Will, it's like over $1 billion. I would think up to. I mean, Blue Sky would be multiple billions. Headwater, very cheap, 2 discoveries, great team, bunch of projects, diversified to the upside. They need one to make a company maker, and they might already have one. District, I mean, I remember District I think it was in one of the news releases, like, or if it was I talked to someone, but he said that, or I heard that the previous owner of the Viken deposit, before the moratorium took place and when they banned uranium mining, I think it traded up to like 130 million or 160 million or something. I think District is at, I don't know, 15 million. So I literally have no idea if, I don't know if this is ever going to be a mine. We know it's huge, and we know it's the second largest uranium deposit. But I don't know if District Metal should be up 10x already, or it should stay here. I absolutely have no idea. And that's also the fun part. Newfound Gold, they're going to keep drilling, and I think this is going to be acquired one day. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily guess like a 5-bagger from here, but, maybe, actually, maybe. Still, it's gone down pretty much in price. Story is getting better. They're hitting more, and obviously, if price goes down, that's good. Yeah, I expect this might not have the highest blue sky potential out of the bunch, but I think it has kind of with Snowline line 1, let's say, highest degree of probable upside at least. Because this is obviously, I mean, they're not going to undrill what they already drilled. So, I mean, from a risk perspective, there are differences here. Yeah. So anyway, do your own due diligence. Consider me biased. Don't invest money you cannot afford to lose. And personally, I would say, don't be in miners if you don't have a 2-year horizon from this point. It's like, they are cheap, but they might stay cheap for a year, maybe in a year and a half, or maybe the bottom is in. I don't know. It's just that the sector is not going to stay this cheap forever. My plan is obviously to hold not only for the time that they become less cheap, but hopefully even expensive one day. And by that point, I hope I have bought so many shares of the best juniors that, like, yeah, you could easily retire if you wanted to. Anyway, consider me biased. This is not investing advice. Hit your thumbs up if you like this stuff. Bye.